I'm Matt Babcock, lead NBA draft analyst for basketballnews.com. Just recently, we launched our 2021 NBA mock draft and thought, hey, let's answer some questions from some of our fans and followers. So here we are. Now, this is a good question, and it's a question I get a lot. In some years, you've got guys like Tim Duncan or LeBron James or Zion Williamson a couple years ago, where it's a no-brainer that they're going to be the first pick, regardless of who wins the NBA lottery. This year we've got Cade Cunningham, who's the front runner to be the number one pick, and is currently number one on our mock draft. However, I think Evan Mobley's right there, and so depending on who gets that first pick, could shake it up a little bit. But if I were to bet, I think it's going to be Cade Cunningham. He's a 6'8", I guess point guard, but really just a do-it-all kind of guy. Sort of falls into the same mold of like a Luka Doncic, where, hey, what position are they? I don't know, but they do everything, and the ball needs to be in their hands. And so Cade can be plugged into so many different teams, pretty much any team. And so I'd say the best chance of being the number one pick is probably going to be Cade Cunningham, with Evan Mobley right behind him. We currently have Jalen Green being selected number 3 by the Orlando Magic. However, I don't think he's a shoo-in to be the third pick. He's definitely in our top 5. This year's top 5 being Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Jalen Suggs. Not necessarily in that order. I mean, I think there is quite a bit of parity. I think for me, at least, Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley are 1 and 2. And then the next 3, I think it's an interesting debate. I think depending on who's picking, could look at it totally differently. As far as with this specific mock draft and how the order is shaken out, Orlando Magic, I think Jalen Green's a good fit for them. First of all, I'm a big fan of Jalen Suggs. I mean, it was so much fun watching him at Gonzaga this year and the run they made, and near perfect season, including that crazy shot that he hit, in the Final Four. Just a really great player. As far as comparisons go, I think the 2 names that have come up quite a bit, Jason Kidd and Darren Williams is one that I've pinpointed. With Jason Kidd, I don't know if if Jalen's quite the natural playmaker or passer Jason Kidd was. That's really not a knock on Jalen, as Jason Kidd he was so elite and special in that regard. But they're about the same size, 6'4", point guards, floor generals, and are both very good defensively. I think Jalen's got a chance of being a very good two-way player. I've got high hopes for him. And then the comparison to Darren Williams, big point guard that's very assertive and tough. Those are the 2 guys that come to mind. But Jalen's going to be a really good player at the very least. Well, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, for us, we've got Keon Johnson going number 9 to Sacramento, and so I think that's a good spot for him. I think after 6, 7, 8, you get in that range, there's a lot of parity, probably all the way up to somewhere around 20. I think guys could kind of go anywhere in that window. So Keon going number 9, I think is somewhat on his high side. And so again, it's all about perspective of where is a team selecting him. But I like Keon. Keon is arguably the best athlete in the draft. A lot of upside because of that. Has a chance to be an elite defender. He just needs to round out his offensive skills and just sort of polish up his game. But I could see him being mid-late lottery, mid-first. And so again, as far as the underrated part, just depends on where you're getting him. First of all, we're extremely high on Tre Mann. He's a terrific player. He's a sophomore player, came back after somewhat of an underwhelming freshman year, and just really did well. He's a 6'5" combo guard that can really score the ball and create his own shot and hit tough shots. I think his game translates very well to the NBA. We currently have him going number 16 to Boston. I think that's a good fit for him. I think he's proven to be worthy candidate to be selected somewhere in the mid-first. I'd say probably somewhere between late lottery, maybe the early 20s, somewhere in there. That seems to be an appropriate range for him. But yeah, Tre's a terrific player, and I think as teams work him out and get to know him better, he'll probably end up in that range. I followed Greg Brown since high school, and just he's a very intriguing prospect. He's 6'9" forward. That's an incredible athlete. I mean, on any given day, he just puts on a show with highlight dunks and explosive plays. My big holdup with Greg is I think he's got some development to do in regards to figuring out his identity as a player. He seems to be a guy that wants to be very perimeter oriented. I'd like to see him be more of a versatile modern day power forward, or stretch forward where he's shooting the ball and he's face up and he's using his athleticism. But the kid does play really hard and he's got a lot of raw talent. We currently have him going number 20 to Atlanta. I mean, we've had him as high as being a lottery pick this year. I think he's got somewhat of a wide range, but he is a high upside prospect. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go anywhere in the first round. Another player I've followed for years. I mean, he's been a member of USA Basketball, which I attend those events pretty regularly, and very talented kid, super high upside, just a big explosive guard that can create his own shot. His Arizona State team did not have a very good year, and he had an up and down year individually as well. I still have high hopes for Josh. I think his upside, is there, and I think he needs to develop and mature as a player. I think he's got a chance of being a big time scorer in the NBA. I think he's got a chance of being a good defender with his physical profile and his physical tools. He's just somewhat of a high risk, high reward just because the sample size in college, didn't blow you away. But I still expect him to be a first round pick. Josh Giddey is a very intriguing prospect, and he's a 6'8" point guard playing in Australia. Has really done a lot of the same things that LaMelo Ball did last year in Australia, being a big point guard. He's had a number of triple doubles. I think his translation to the NBA. I think he could play the 1, 2, 3, and maybe even some small ball 4 eventually as he fills out. He's a young guy right now, still developing physically, but his playmaking ability, his versatility, is undeniable. I interviewed him recently, and I got to know the kid. Seemed like a great guy, passionate about the game. But both of his parents were pros. And one interesting fact about him is that he's ambidextrous, which you can see on the floor. I mean, the guy can make really challenging passes with both hands and finishes with both hands well. As far as his floor and ceiling, he's a young guy. I mean, it's hard to say, is this guy 100% going to stick in the NBA long term? I think time will tell. But I do have confidence that he'll at least be a rotational player, if not a starting caliber player in the NBA. Again, it's really challenging with players that are 18, 19 years old, though. So my colleague Derek Murray's been hot on JT Thor all year long, and got me on the bandwagon as well. Young prospect, that's really just has a lot of upside and intrigue. He's long, he's versatile, kind of fits modern day basketball well. I think he kind of falls in that boat. Like, hey, wouldn't shock me if somebody, looked at him as an upside guy. Hey, let's take him late first. But he's also a guy that can go mid second, which you have to negotiate those deals. So he's definitely, in my mind, probably going to be a 50-50 guy on whether he stays in the draft or not. Just as far as looking at in the history of guys in his spot. But if he's in, we're definitely going to take a hard look at him. We currently have him in the early second round. Yeah, I think I read recently that Sam Presti made some comments that they always like to move up or look to move up unless they have the number one pick. And so obviously, Sam is stockpiled draft picks, and it gives teams a lot of flexibility to move around and go get guys if they want. Last year they did that with Pokusevski, which seemed to benefited them. Like they really got a good young prospect that's got some upside. So yeah, I fully expect Sam to be a wheeler dealer come draft night, and probably in future drafts as well. Well, I don't know how much you know about my background, but I grew up in and around the NBA. My dad, my two uncles have worked in the NBA since the late '70s, so I've really kind of seen it from all different angles. I worked as an agent, now worked as an NBA draft analyst the last several years. And regardless of my age or my role within basketball, my favorite thing of the draft has always been seeing guys' dreams come to reality. Like everybody else that loves basketball, I dreamed of having that moment myself, and it's just the more I've learned about the business and operating different roles, I realize how special those times are, because it's for one, it's hard to get to that point, and it's rare. I mean, these kids that are getting the opportunity to play basketball in the NBA, it's just a special thing, and I look forward to watching that, year in, year out.